The second game of day 2 of Champions tomorrow is Optic Gaming against Boom. At least for me on paper, feeling like the easiest one to predict, and definitely the biggest overdog game that we have at the moment. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Optic, let's focus on them quickly. Crashes, Victor, Marv, FNS, IGL, and Ye. They don't need much introduction. Obviously, Masters 1 they qualified, Masters 2 they qualified, Masters 1 they won, and then Masters 2 they came third. Very dominant in a strong region as well. They're definitely in their own little tier when it comes to NA for me, with all the other teams kind of battling it out for the second place. So I will go ahead and say that this, in my opinion, in terms of Optic and the core, in terms of the whole team, have been the most consistent team we've seen in Valorant, which is very impressive, especially with a game that changes so much. It just shows a lot of hard work, to do that, and just dedication. Good IGL from FNS and a lot of hard work from Chet, their coach as well, for sure. So yeah, I'm very impressed with how consistent they've been. Obviously, champions last year. They bottomed out in groups. They did have Victor that had COVID, so he wasn't performing up to his current level. So I don't want to focus on that too much. I want to focus on this year. Obviously, Optic winning Masters, so looking very dominant, especially in the final. A really good performance from them, and then going over towards where is it? Going over towards Masters 2. They said themselves they weren't feeling it. They weren't super happy with their performance. I think it's very hard. Like, trust me, coming from these events, it's very hard to win back-to-back lands. And you do having to change your comp after an event in terms of changing your comp on all these maps, potentially taking like at least a week off as well, because you've obviously been working so hard to qualify for the LAN and then actually at the LAN. It's a lot of work and a lot of changing up that you have to do. So you actually saw them having a lot of just a harder time in general, especially like some of these maps were really close. Optic winning double pistol against DRX on the last map, and only just closing it out. So you've seen that they did eventually fall. Obviously, they went down to PaperX and FPX in the lower bracket final. Again, overall, I think they've looked good. Maybe here we were starting to see teams get a bit more used to the neon. I felt like in Masters 1, people weren't used to the neon. They played it on a lot of maps and it caught people off guard. Maybe here as well, there was a bit of that factor, and the fact that they were I hate using the word burnt out, but maybe a little bit burnt out in terms of how much they were playing. An important thing to note, again, new patch, so there's no splits. If you're looking at, let's just highlight this. If we're looking at this in terms of the year, played a lot of split here. This is a lot of wins in a row on split, right? So they're losing a map that's really strong for them. How many is this in a row? 5, 6, 7. There's 8 in a row here. So yeah, that's really impressive to do that. And then obviously to losing to FBX. So they're losing a good map in terms of split for them. So we'll see what they're like at Pearl. And they will be playing against Boom Esports. One of the biggest underdogs, if not the biggest underdog at Champions. It's between them and Fury in my mind. But they are running off a bit of a high for sure. They've just come through the last chance qualifier of APAC, beating out Onyx in a best of 5. The biggest change that they made was bringing in Famous. So they had Frostmind for the qualifier for Masters 2, and they decided to replace him with Famous. And he's looking like the firepower that they needed. He's been top fragging a lot in terms of first kills. He has been going 24 first kills to 16 deaths, so he's been fragging out a lot, and they're kind of just running off a high. It reminds me a little bit of Liquid last year in terms of last chance qualifier, where everything's clicking. And you got the new player in, and you kind of just it's a bit of a, don't want to call it honeymoon period, but maybe it is. But either way, they're going to be happy that they qualified. It's brutal that they're going up against Optic. They do remind me, so when I watch this team, it feels like maybe they don't have an identity, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing, but like if I watch these on Bind and you took off the player names, they play exactly the same as Fnatic, right? They play the same comp, they play it exactly the same. It's the same defaults, the same strats, so it's very much handpicked and very similar fracture as well. when I'm watching them on Fracture, if you took the names off, it's exactly the same way that Optic like to play Fracture. So they've definitely had time restraints with the new player coming in, and they've just handpicked what they feel looks good. And again, I think that's a good thing for sure. So Famous is the player to watch out for me. For sure, new kid. And then again, we were going head to head. I have to call Yay, right? I have to call out Yay again. Chambers in this patch, super strong, Mr. Consistent, right? When I'm looking at all of his maps, there's probably one map where he wasn't consistent. I think this was this was maybe his worst ever performance. So this is like that, and when you're playing so many maps, right? I'm not entirely sure how many maps he's played, but um, it's very impressive. 121 results more, so yeah, 126 maps or so. Very consistent. Potentially one of the most consistent players in the game that we have. Um, he's going to be looking to frag out. The one thing I'm a little bit nervous for Optic is just their history of slow starts. Right, in groups they tend to lose the first game, so maybe that's the only. Like, that could be a good blessing for Boom, but when I'm looking at like percentages of these teams, dude, I swear, I'm the only reason I probably wouldn't give higher than 80 is because Optic always starts slow. So I will go for like a 80-20% if I'm gonna do that in terms of like my percentages for the teams to win. Um, Maps, like I said, split. I think Optic lose a little bit from that. Boom, they recently played their games, last chance qualifiers, so for them to kind of get Pearl into a good position is going to be hard. I think we're probably going to see that banned out. But they like the same kind of maps, right? They both like Fracture, they both like Bind, like I said. So I'm expecting to see a Fracture and a Bind, get rid of Pearl. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure what Optic's going to be doing. Maybe they go for their normal Icebox ban, or maybe they change it up. We'll see. It's been yeah, going into this game, I just don't think we're going to see an upset. I'm really confident for Optic, and I think they're going to come out swinging for this one. I'm going to be the thing that I'm interested to see is if they do is if they're going to change up any of their comps. That's kind of the main thing that I'm excited about to see if they're going to change any comps. Right, that's it for this, guys. Make sure you tune into my Twitch tomorrow. I will be live again showing all of these. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video, and I will see you on the stream.